God's desire for you as His follower, as a Christian, as a disciple of Jesus, is to continue to grow to become more like Jesus. Well, how does that work? That is the result of a divine partnership. It says in Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 and 13, it says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you both to will and to do His good pleasure." You see the partnership there? He's not saying work for your salvation. We don't earn it. We receive it by faith in Jesus Christ. He's saying once you've received it, work it out. Do your part. Make the most of. Experience all that is there in the salvation God has given you through your faith in Jesus Christ. It's God's doing His part, who works in you both to will, to want to grow, to want to obey Him, and to do His good pleasure. So there's a divine partnership. There's God's part and there's our part. Well, we're going to be talking a lot the next few days about our part of that relationship. Now I'm going to give you the big picture today. What is it I can do to grow more spiritually? And there's 7 primary principles and there's 7 primary practices. Let's go. Number 1 is depending. Like the branch is dependent on the vine for life, we have to depend on Jesus for our spiritual life. It's a matter of godly friendships. Iron will sharpen iron. We will become like the people we hang around with. It's a matter of submitting to the will of God. He's the potter, we're the clay, we submit to His hands as He's working in our lives. It's a matter of applying the Word of God. When we hear the Word of God and apply it, then we are wise people who build our houses on the rock. When the storms come, we stand firm. If we hear the Word of God and don't apply it, we're like people that build our houses on the sand, and when the rain comes, our lives crash. Mind renewal. Romans chapter 12. We are transformed by the renewing of our mind. As you read the Word of God and think about how to apply it, God changes you. Discipline. 1 Timothy says, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. You've got to do your part. You've got to put in the effort. The word discipline means to sweat. You've got to work at this. It's not easy. You've got to do your part. You can't be a disciple without discipline. And last, perseverance. James talks about the fact that we need to hang in there and keep going when we face trials, because then God will grow us up to be more like Jesus. Those are the principles of spiritual growth. The practices of spiritual growth are simple. You got to read the Bible, study the Bible, memorize the Bible. You got to get the truth in you. Man shall live by not bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God. You've got to pray. Moses was transformed. He had the glow of God on his face when he would go into the tent of meeting and talk with God in prayer. You've got to worship. God is seeking people who will worship Him in spirit and in truth. You've got to fellowship, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, but provoking and encouraging one another. That's how we grow. Serving. The more I serve others, the stronger I get spiritually. It's amazing how that works. It says in Ephesians 4, we become more like Him as we do our works of ministry. Sharing the gospel. Philemon says we will understand the goodness of God, the power of salvation, the more we share it with other people. And giving. God's a giver. You want to become like God, more godly? You become a giver. God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son. Give, and it shall be given unto you. When we give, we receive other graces in our lives. God is commanding us to grow. He's going to do His part. The question is, are you doing your part?